Today, we're going to be telling you about the Tijuana cartel. This has been one of the most recognized criminal organizations in the 80s and 90s, controlling traffic that went to the United States through Tijuana. The Arellano Felix brothers managed this criminal association. After the capture of Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, head of the Guadalajara cartel, it fragmented into 7 groups, with the Tijuana and the Sinaloa cartel as the most important ones. Whenever they coexisted, they were always at loggerheads over territory, until the Baja California cartel was finally displaced due to the wrong moves and the subsequent decline that they suffered. The origin of this criminal organization dates back to the 1980s, when the Guadalajara cartel controlled the market. In 1989, the head of this organization, Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo, was captured by authorities. This is how the large cartel fragmented. One of these new cartels was that of the Felix Arellano family, which was based in Tijuana. The other cartel, which emerged due to Felix Gallardo's capture, was the one that had the well-known Joaquin Guzman Loera, El Chapo, as its head. The center of the cartel is based in Culiacan, Sinaloa. This group controlled the northwest of the country and was also one of the most violent during those decades, while they maintained control of the area. As important as this group was during its time of glory, it was always in conflict with the Sinaloa group because both wanted to influence its territories where the other dominated. The family of Ramon Arellano Felix led the criminal association based in Baja California. Still, the Mexican and U.S. authorities caught up with them until they led the cartel on a long road of agony. As we've already said, this criminal association was always in conflict with others of the same ilk. Their aim was to grab more territory to operate more extensively. The groups they had the most conflicts with were the Juarez cartel and the Sinaloa cartel. There have been numerous confrontations between these groups for reasons of market competition and distribution corridors, which has led to the use of violence and armed conflicts. The rivalry against the Juarez brothers reached its climax in the attempted assassinations of their boss, Amado Carrillo Fuentes, the Lord of the Skies. As the Lord was called, was having dinner in a restaurant in Mexico City when he was surprised by a group that tried unsuccessfully to take his life. Years later, Alcides Ramon Magaña was convicted for different crimes, including his participation in this attempted murder. With the Sinaloa gangs, violent confrontations were much more recurrent, also having as a repeated situation the attempted murder of the heads of these organizations. One of the most important was the confrontation between these two groups in 1993 in the parking lot of the Guadalajara International Airport. 7 people were killed. During the shooting, Cardinal Juan Jesus Posadas Ocampo was mistaken for Chapo Guzman. After assuming victory, the assassins flee on a commercial flight to Tijuana, their base of operations. And it wasn't until 15 years later that Mexican military and law enforcement authorities caught up with Alfredo Araujo Avina, also known as El Papay, for the murder of the Cardinal and other murders. In February of 2002, Ramon Arellano Felix arrived in Mazatlan, Sinaloa, to assassinate another of the leaders of the Sinaloa cartel, Mayo Zambada. 5 days after arriving in the city, he was intercepted by a group of police officers carrying out a routine check. A fierce shootout ensued, and Arellano Felix and one of his bodyguards were killed. Once again, they fail in their mission. This is how the bosses in Tijuana begin to change because of their murder or imprisonment by the authorities. Also, when the decline of this criminal group began, but until today, many wonder if the Tijuana cartel is still operating in any way. The 2 journalists were allegedly murdered by a remnant group of the Arellano Felix cartel. The Undersecretary of Security detailed that those responsible for the murder of the journalists were from the same criminal cell. The leader of the same Christian had been identified, Adan, also known as Corporal 16. Photojournalist Margarito Martinez Esquivel, who collaborated with several print and digital media outlets, was found shot outside of his home on January 17th of this year, just outside of his house. He was on his way to work in the morning. He left his house, and it was at that moment that a car appeared and attacked the journalist, firing 3 shots. The 4-4, as his closest colleagues called Margarito, worked for many media outlets in the city. In his career, he photographed early morning police events and clashes between cartels in Tijuana. The person who ordered the killing of the journalist was allegedly David Lopez Jimenez, Corporal 20, who is accused of many other crimes. Among them are homicides, deprivations of liberty, disappearances, and other crimes against health. The motive for this character's actions is said to have been in that many publications in the media, the criminal's face appeared. After these images began circulating on some local press, Cabo 20 was ordered to investigate who was behind the publications. Unfortunately, they mistakenly held Margarito Martinez responsible for this. In any case, the 4-4 never related to these publications. On the other hand, Lourdes Maldonado was executed on January 23rd of this year in Tijuana when she was arriving home in Santa Fe subdivision. She was shot while she was still inside of her vehicle. The competent authorities stated that the reason why Lourdes was murdered was that she denounced criminals related to the cartels that operated in the area where she lived. The Baja California prosecutor announced that Lourdes' murderers received $5,000 as payment for taking her life. On the other hand, the story of the radio host became more recognized after, on March 26th of 2019, she stated that her life was in danger, and she requested help from President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. In that conference, she exposed her legal situation with the former governor of Baja California, Jaime Bonilla. In any case, it is essential to detail that it's common knowledge that Bonilla and López Obrador have a friendly relationship. For the past 9 years, Maldonado and Bonilla have been involved in a legal dispute, in which Lourdes claimed unjustified dismissal and outstanding payroll debts from the PSN Jaime Bonilla's company. However, when Bonilla was governor, he never expressly referred to this matter. On January 19th, days before the journalist's murder, the company was notified of a commercial seizure in favor of Lourdes, who was designated as the intervening trustee. Then, according to Maldonado's legal representative, a payment agreement between the company and Maldonado would begin. According to the competent authorities, there is a line of connection between these two murders. The line leads us to a remnant group of Arellano Felix, led by Corporal 16, who was arrested among other members of this criminal cell. This leads us to believe that, in some way, the cartel continues operating in the shadows. The deaths mentioned above lead us to believe that this criminal group is still operating today. One of the possibilities is that they have established alliances with others similar to them to remain active. One of these alliances with the Gulf Cartel, which developed in the Altiplano Maximum Security Prison, where Benjamin Arellano Felix and the head of the Gulf Cartel, Ociel Cardenas, was imprisoned. Both in this prison allowed the dialogue to strengthen ties between the two groups. On the other hand, after the dominance of the Sinaloa cartel approximately 7 years ago, the Jalisco cartel, New Generacion, began to displace the Sinaloa cartel in some places. It had taken control of states such as Colima, Nayarit, Guanajuato, Guerrero, Morelos, and even Veracruz. But how has this criminal association been able to expand the way it has in recent years? Everything seems to indicate that the Jalisco Generation cartel allied with the remnants of the Tijuana cartel. This alliance has been in place since 2016. Many threatening banners have appeared in the border city against the Sinaloa cartel, signed by the CJNG and the Arellano Felix cartel. But at the same time, we can also see how the Sinaloa gangs have treated in some of the territories in dispute after Chapo's capture. In any case, not all Baja California's criminal associations would agree with this alliance or union, which would be a reason for internal conflict. Beyond this, it seems that this union is getting stronger and stronger. The new name of Arellano Felix would be the New Generation Tijuana Cartel. Anyways, in January of this year, journalist Margarito Martinez and Lourdes Maldonado were killed by what is presumed to be a remnant group of the Tijuana cartel. On the one hand, Martinez was allegedly executed because he appeared as a figure who criticized and hindered the work of Narco. On the other hand, at the same time, Maldonado expressed several times the fear he felt for his life because of the conflicts he had with Jaime Bonilla, a friend of the current president of Mexico and politician in Baja California. It is presumed that this group, to stay alive, has made alliances with other criminal organizations, such as the Jalisco Cartel, New Generation, to continue operating in the shadows. But what do they think? The Arellano Felix cartel is still alive? Is it responsible for these deaths? Or is it always easier to blame those who are already dead? We read you, so don't forget to leave a comment, like the video, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff.